Welcome to the 6th Sewing Marathon. I am Beth and I'm going to be your host for this tutorial. Today's designer is Sonar and we are sewing up her latest pattern, the Juno Clutch Wallet. This is going to be a raw edge wallet, which means that we need to use materials that are non-fraying pretty much throughout it. My tutorial is going to be focusing on sewing up this pattern on a domestic machine using materials that make it an easier sew, and also getting to know the designer from Sonar, Nicole, just a little bit better. In my tutorial, I'm using the materials from Brittany from the Emporium, so I will have a link for her materials in my description. The two biggest pieces you will need to cut out will be your lining and your exterior. You will want to use something that is going to be non-fraying, so that's going to be a faux leather, vinyl, or a cork. I did go ahead and attach a label, so this is my lining piece. Let's look at the exterior piece. You can see on the exterior I have my tag upside down. That's because this will end up being the part that's the flap that folds over. You can also see I've cut out a zipper box. So for me, this zipper box, I wanted it to close to the left, and so I have a cutout to the left. Be careful when you're cutting this out that you make sure you know that this part right here is going to be the area that closes. So whatever way you want your zipper to close, that's where you want that slit. We're going to actually have this to be a little bit of a gusseted zipper. So this will be a new sewing skill that we're focusing on in this wallet, to add this gusset piece here. Since these are the two largest pieces you will be using in this wallet, cut them first to make sure that you have enough materials to get these two pieces out. Now let's go ahead and talk about the pieces that we will use to make this zipper pocket. First thing is we will have our little zipper gusset piece, so we will cut that out of a piece of vinyl. Definitely want that to be a non-fraying material as well. We're going to have a piece of zipper tape with a pull attached. She does recommend a number 3, so I did go ahead and cut it according to the pattern measurements. She also tells us on the side where the zipper closes, that is going to be for me that left side, I do take the bottom edge of that zipper tape, separate it a little. She tells you how far to pinch it down. So you just draw your line at the spot where she tells you and then fold it down and you can sew it. You only do that on one side. The top will be left long. The bottom is going to be the part that's going to go behind this piece here. So it'll go like this, and we will leave that top a little bit long so that we can attach it here, but we will have that bottom folded under that 90 degrees just so we have a clear opening there. We will also need 2 lining pieces. Our top lining piece is going to be the bigger piece. The bottom is going to be the smaller piece. There's a couple things you'll need to do to this bottom piece. On your pattern piece, the markings kind of note the size of the interfacing you need to cut out. Then what you're going to do is you're going to fold that side to that interfacing. Let's look at what that means. You can see there's a gap here. On this short side only, you're going to fold that raw edge right up against that interfacing. You're not going to do that at the top. That's going to be left alone. Whenever we are using this material, you'll want to use something that can be a little bit softer. If you want to use a cotton woven, a cotton canvas, a waterproof canvas, anything that can, you wouldn't want to use vinyl or cork on these two pieces, in other words. Those are the pieces you will use for your zipper pocket. Let's set those aside. The next piece we're going to have is going to be for our credit card slot pieces. So this is going to be our card panel back. For the rest of the pieces, I'm going to be doing a jelly. I felt like this would be a little bit thinner and would help me on my domestic machine. It would still be cute. Now you will be able to see through, but this is going to be your card panel A. You're going to cut 2 of these. The way they will fit is going to be just like this. So you can see you want them to have that same edge of that card panel backing piece. Then what you're going to have is 6 card slots. You have in your pattern 3 different options for how to cut the tops of these. The bottoms will all be the same, but you will have these on both sides. You'll be laying them down, and we will go through the steps of this, but I'm just kind of showing so you'll know kind of how it looks. So you can have a good idea to help you with what kind of pieces you want and what kind of card slots you want. So that is kind of how this will look. After you have those attached, you will take your card panel B and it will go right in the middle, and that'll be the last section you have. And this will all be attached, and this will make up your card slots. I'm going to use this for my craft shows, my vendor events. Instead of top stitching down the middles and making these individual slots, I will leave them open so they can be cash slots. Whenever I'm going to my vendor shows, I have to have cash of different denominations to make sales for the people that want to do cash sales. So this will be perfect for me to separate them, so when I'm making change or getting the cash from them, I can store them and keep them neatly organized. So that is what I'm going to do with this, but you will not see me top stitching down to make these individual. So just know, if you want to make individual card slots, you will have to follow the pattern directions to sew down each of yours. So now that we have all of this organized and we went over our pieces, let's go ahead and get started sewing. We will start with the card slots, or for me, cash slot pieces first, just to get all those small pieces combined and get them out of the way. In the next few steps, you're going to see me attach these credit card slots to this back panel. I did do this incorrectly, and I placed them, the credit card slots, to the right side of my vinyl. That leaves the wrong side of my vinyl exposed. This will be the part that's going to be showing for my slip pocket. It doesn't look bad. I'm not going to change anything, but just make note that whatever's on the back, that's what you will see for your slip pocket. So the pattern is designed for you to attach your credit card slot pieces to the wrong side of your vinyl. That way you have a pretty finish. First thing we're going to do is we want to take out our card panel back. That is this piece right here, and our 2 card panel A pieces. On this piece, you do have a top and a bottom, so make note of that to make sure you have it orientated the right way. You're going to take one of these panel A pieces and put it at the top, and you will have a part that is longer and a shorter side. This is your top. The longer or wider part is the top, and you are going to have those tops matched up. So top to top, top to bottom. This is how we're going to attach these. We're just going to top stitch these in place. Nothing fancy here. Since I'm using a gel and a vinyl, I should not have any problem sewing this on a domestic machine. I'm going to keep my stitch length the same, which was about a 3.8. I'm using a universal needle 9014 and a polyester thread, so nothing fancy at all. And if you are someone that likes to use double-sided tape, you could definitely do that. If you watch my other tutorials, you know I don't. So I'm just going to kind of go slow and sew this in place. I will be using Beacon 3-in-1 glue to help me at certain steps of this process, but I probably won't be using double-sided tape just because I typically don't use it in my sewing room. I am just going to be top stitching 1/8 of an inch away from the tops of both of these. I'll go very slow just to make sure I keep everything in line, especially since I'm not having mine taped down or anything like that. I'm going to take special care to make sure that I have everything lining up at the sides and the top. With a raw edge wallet, you want to try to be careful that you're as precise as possible. Nicole did give about 1/4 of an inch to be able to be trimmed off if we need to, but really we want to try to be as careful as possible so that we don't have to do any trimming. We don't want to risk credit cards if you're using them fitting in these slots. The purpose of these marathons is for us to get together and have just a wonderful time sewing together, and even kind of highlighting a specific designer and showing all the different ways you can sew up a pattern. This sewing tutorial today is to highlight the designer Sonar. Now, I have not sewn a lot of patterns from Nicole, so I was very excited to just kind of delve into her world a little bit, and I talked to her some to just kind of understand her better while sewing this. A little known fact about Nicole is that she has a great love for old school circus. The older style of circus has been around for years and years. The first circus in the United States was in the 1700s, and George Washington actually even attended the first circus in the United States. Nicole loved the entire process. She loved the idea of living on a train. She loved all the feats and acts, and she even became involved in the circus. And she was able to do several different acts with the circus. One of the things she did was to perform with the stilts. Just a little side note that the world record for using stilts is about 15 steps on 55-foot stilts. Crazy. Nicole had loved the idea of living on a train and even dreamed of just running away and just taking that opportunity to experience that life. Now that we have those two panel A pieces top stitched to your card backing, let's pull out all your card slot pieces. You should have 6 of these in total. Yours may have a different decorative design on the top compared to mine. Now, I did make the marks on the back of my card slot on this backing piece. So what you can do is you can keep your mark there, or what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a few clips right there for that first mark. And what we're basically using those marks for is to know where the bottom of this credit card slot piece will be. We want to make sure we have the same amount on each of these pieces. We're going to sew the bottom down, but we want to make for sure the tops are pretty evenly spaced, and we're just going to sew across there to attach them. What I'm going to do is I'm going to clip down one on each side just to make this process go a little bit quicker. Other things that Nicole got to do while performing in the circus was she got to do hula hooping, fire hooping, and I don't even know what that is. I guess you set the hula hoop on fire. She also did burlesque and even did knife throwing. So she had lots of skills, and really, even though she regretted not living on the train, she got to really experience circus life in a way that most of us don't get to. During her time with the circus, she even got to go backstage to meet with several of the Barnum and Bailey workers. So she got to go backstage and experience that side of circus life, getting to meet the other performers, getting to see the big cats, the elephants, things like that. Since getting to talk to Nicole about the circus and her thoughts about it, it kind of left me a little bit intrigued on it. So I was looking up a couple of different things and just reading and educating myself about the circus. Interesting to know is that there is a lot of superstition behind the circus. Like, they have a lot of traditions so that the performers would make sure that a show went well. So some things that they would do is that during the circus, it was considered bad luck to enter the circus with your left foot first. It's so crazy, but that was something that they would not want to do. You would only have to enter with your right foot first. Another thing would be whistling backstage. It was considered bad luck if performers or anyone was whistling backstage before a show. Now you can see I have several attached right now. You could, if you wanted, to go ahead and just attach one other piece and do it like that. You get a couple options there. I'm going to go ahead and attach these last 2 card slots, But just know that you don't have to attach all of them if you feel like you don't need them or your wallet's getting too thick, depending on your materials. But I'm going to go ahead and attach this last set onto mine. Another interesting fact about circuses is that the human cannonball, whenever a human is shot out of the cannonball, they actually travel between 50 to 60 miles per hour. Kind of crazy. Now at this part, what you're going to do is you're going to pull out, this is your B piece. And so what you're going to do is you're going to have it centered. You can use the center marks on the side to match it up, or you can just kind of eyeball it, which is what I'm going to do, to try to make sure everything looks orientated correctly. I am going to clip this in place. So this is the way my wallet looks right now. So if you are making your credit card slots, you are going to sew down the sides to divide them up. I am not doing that. So what I am going to do now is I'm going to use just a little bit of glue to glue down these sides just on the edges. Our tendency is let's go ahead and baste these in place, but the thing is with a raw edge wallet is every basting stitch you do is not really a basting stitch because it's going to show at the end. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go off camera. I'm going to take my Beacon 3-in-1 glue and I'm going to take some time. I'm going to make sure that everything is lining up. If you need to trim any overhang, and mine looks really good. So I have one card slot that's a little off that I might need to trim. But if you need to trim, we can trim up a little bit off, no more than 1/8 of an inch off each side. And then I'm going to use some glue to just kind of glue down these sides. No more than 1/8 of an inch in will be my glue. Double-sided tape, you would use 1/8 of an inch double-sided tape to glue or to secure the sides down that way. We will sew down the middle of these eventually to divide them, but we're just not going to now. That'll be a step later on. So here's what mine look like now. I'll go off camera to attach these and then we will come back and start working on our zipper pocket piece. It's time to start working on this zipper pocket piece now. So this is kind of the more, I guess, the challenging part of this. So what we want to do first is we want to take our zipper and this exterior piece. So we'll set everything else aside and make sure you have the box cut out, including that little flat piece, and your zipper prepped. What we want to do is we want to kind of go ahead and secure this zipper to this exterior without any stitches. So we are going to either use double-sided tape or some glue. I'm going to use some glue to get this attached. This is the way it's going to attach. So that folded edge is going to be right where this gusset piece is. I'm going to flip this over. And so I'm going to kind of separate these so you can see, but you really just want it just slightly away. But we also want to get the zipper teeth in the middle of the box. So it's a little tricky, I think, to get it perfect. So I'm going to go slow on this, and I'm actually going to put the glue onto my zipper tape. I'm just going to do a little bit. I'm not going to do a lot. After I get it kind of slightly secured, I could always come back with more. And this isn't meant to be permanent. This is just to hold it a little. So we have just a little extra help with it not shifting while we're attaching the other pieces for this zipper pocket. So now that I have a little bit of glue on there, I'm going to turn this back over and start slowly getting everything attached. I'm going to kind of separate these pieces so I can work on the bottom first and get it to go exactly the way I want it to. I want this vinyl to end up being about 1/4 of an inch away from the teeth. That's always a good way to have it. That way when you sew around the raw edge of the vinyl with 1/8 of an inch, you can catch everything easily. I could shift this down just a little, so I'm going to do that just a slight bit, pulling it down, just to give myself a little bit more room there in that opening area. so that looks decently good now. So I'm going to just push firmly, whatever you're using, push it down, give it a minute if it's the glue. And now this piece is going to be the bottom piece. This is the bottom of our zipper tape, the part with it folded. We know that we want this to be sewn onto this piece, and we also want this folded edge to go here. So what we do is we take that folded edge and we put it right there on the zipper tape, and I'm matching up that raw edge there. Now she says in the pattern that we want just a small amount to not, like we want it just a little bit away. We don't want it right up against it, but pretty much we want it pretty close to it. I'm going to use my glue to just get a little bit of glue here just to secure this in place once again. So I'm going to go ahead and flip it over. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to sew along that raw edge there at the bottom. That's going to secure these pieces together. I'm going to put my foot exactly at the edge of this opening here, and I'm just sewing on this opening part, so I'm not going any past where that opening is, just sewing from there to there along that zipper tape, 1/8 of an inch away, leaving my threads long so I can knot them to the back. So this is what we have at this point. Here is the opening, here is the lining, zipper tape, all that. So what we're going to do is we're just going to fold this piece down. We kind of use that interfacing guide where we have the interfacing as kind of the pivot point, and it just kind of folds down pretty easily because of that. So you'll have that folded down, and then what we're going to do now is we're going to pull out that small gusset piece. So we're going to take this piece and it's going to be attached so that it is right sides up right against this top part of the slit. You will see the top of it is hanging off. It's going up above the zipper, but the bottom, the shorter spot, is going to be right here along that edge. So what you're looking at is you're looking at your lining bottom piece right sides up, this zipper gusset piece right sides up. I'm going to add just a little bit of glue. You can do double-sided tape just right here to this short edge, and then we're going to flip it over and sew it. So we add a little bit of glue or tape just so it doesn't shift, since we're going to be sewing it from the other side and it's in a little bit of a tricky spot here. So I'm just going to stick that down there, flip this whole piece over, and now we're just going to sew that about 1/8 of an inch away from this cut side just to attach those pieces together. You can pull your thread to the back or back stitch. On this spot, I'm just going to back stitch. So this is currently what we're looking at. We have the aligning zipper pocket right side up. We have our gusset right side up. We have it stitched down. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take this raw edge of that little gusset piece and we're going to bring it over to here. And so she tells us on this piece it's going to be about 1/4 of an inch away, but she does say that it's not completely, like, you have to be very specific. But you take that gusset, you fold it in half, and then you just have it laying over there. That way, whenever you open your zipper, you're going to see this piece. You're not going to see a raw edge or anything like that. So you can use your double-sided tape here. I'm, of course, going to use a little bit of glue to get that to kind of lay down. So I'm just going to put a little bit of glue this time right here on the top, all along this edge of my little gusset piece. And I'm just going to fold that down. Now mine's not going to stick very good. I know that. So I'm going to put some firm pressure while I pull out that top lining piece. Add a little bit of more glue here to the top of this piece of the zipper. And then I'm just going to lay the raw edge of that top lining piece on that raw edge of the zipper. Or I shouldn't say raw edge, the unsewn edge of the top of the zipper. We're going to flip this over. We have everything glued down. I'm going to lift it up though, and I'm going to start sewing to close up this zipper pocket. We want this closed now because the designer says it's really tricky to do it afterwards. So let's just go ahead and sew around here and close this up. So I'm sewing down this edge just from the wrong side, pulling my exterior back. Then I'm going to pivot and go around the bottom. So I just sewed from here to here. That's the steps I did. This part we're going to sew and catch this side and this right now. So what we do is we turn back over to the right side. We start with this little teeny spot here at the bottom, and I am just going to back stitch here at this little spot. I'm going to pivot and come up all the way around this long edge. And I'm just going to do about 1/8 of an inch. Okay, 1/8 of an inch pivot to close up and top stitch around this top side. And then down that little bottom to take care of that. And then the top stitching is done on this pocket, and the pocket is complete. So let's go to the pieces we have. We have our lining piece. We have our card slots, or for me, cash slots. And we have our front exterior piece. Now, I did trim up the back just a little bit, so in case you want to do that, you can trim up that little pocket there. So these are the pieces we have. We are going to take this lining piece and we are going to place our card slot pieces up from the bottom. We have a measurement in the pattern, and so we are going to place it. Let me just show you that measurement. I have it on the wrong side. This is that measurement. So you draw that measurement, and the bottom of your card slots are going to be right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place these clips so that I can see it on the right side, because I just don't want to mark anything on my right side. I can pull out a ruler too. I just don't want to do that on camera. So what I will do is just double check that I get these lined up evenly. If your card slots need trimmed, you can do that. Also, the designer tells us if you want to edge coat the top and the bottom of these card slots, you can do that before you attach it here. So now that we have these pieces together, we're also going to add this exterior piece, so we have this nice little sandwich. We're going to clip all around. You can add glue or double-sided tape all around here. I'm going to be a little risky and just try to clip and see how it goes. If I start seeing that I have shifting, or if my vinyl starts stretching, I will stop and add the glue or the tape just to make sure everything does kind of stay together nicely. But I'm just going to hope I can pull it off without all that. I have a little bit of overhang here that I'll need to trim off at my top. Let me see if it looks good to my bottom. It does, so I'll probably leave the bottom there and just trim off a little bit at the top. Not a lot, maybe 1/8 of an inch. So now that I have all of this clipped together, the pattern gives us 2 measurements. One measurement we measure from the bottom and we draw a line. The other we measure from the top and draw a line. What we're going to do is we're going to top stitch 2 squares. There will be a small section where those stitches overlap on the sides. And so the stitches in the middle here will, one, serve the purpose of separating these 2 pieces so they can be used properly, but 2, it'll also give us kind of a help for folding so the wallet can kind of fold the way we want it to fold. So those are 2 reasons why we are going to do the top stitching through the middle and make it the little bit different way of the boxes. Now, technically you could just sew all the way around and then do your 2 rows of stitching here in the middle. The designer gives us that different way of doing it so that we have the least amount of starts and stops with sewing, so it's a neater finish on the wallet. To help myself do this a little bit easier, I just drew the 1 line first. This is the stitch line from the bottom of the wallet, and that's going to be the first set of stitches I sew. I'm going to sew from the top and across this middle first, just a top stitching stitch 1/8 of an inch away around this top section. After I finish that, then I will come and draw that second row of that second line with the second measurement that comes from the top. I will do that afterwards and then sew it, so I'll be sewing them independently. And I feel like this will kind of help so that I don't get confused as to which rows of stitching I am doing. This is the part I want to be very careful. A lot of things can go wrong on this step. So I'm just going to try to be as careful as I can and hope I don't mess up here at the end. As I finish this wallet up, we'll just talk a little bit more about the circus, just to pay tribute to Nicole and her dreams and goals that she has had throughout her life. I had explained that in the circus, Nicole had walked on stilts as part of a performance that she would do. And so the stilts began out of a form of necessity. When heavy rains would come and cause problems with the land, stilts were used for people to be able to walk and to do the necessary work in the fields and in the land. So stilts actually have a very purposeful history behind them. And so when you see them at a circus, or if you see someone doing that or breaking a new record, we just can see where humans have taken something that was necessary for them and to turn it into a skill, a hobby, a sport. We're coming up on that bump in the zipper now that I've pivoted and I'm going down this way. Be very careful there. You'll want to go extra slow because that bump could cause shifting and your stitches could get out of line. So I'm just using my hands to kind of hold everything in place. If you're having trouble, you can even lift that piece up so that you get a little bit of a smoother sew. Another interesting fact about stilt walking is that the longest chain of people walking on stilts in a line was when 721 people joined, all on stilts, and that chain formed about 1.25 miles long of people walking together in a line on stilts. Now this is just crazy stuff, I think, but very interesting. I just used chalk to make some marks so I could follow that line through the middle. I did not want to risk anything being used that I couldn't get off. I didn't want to try anything that would be needing heat to be taken off because, of course, a jelly vinyl would be much harder to use with a heat press or iron. Okay, I have that first row of stitches done. I'm going to complete the second part now. Somehow I obviously got that wrong because I'm supposed to be overlapping here, but mine's going to have to be under. I don't know, so I'm going to have to make it work anyway, but just pay attention to that spot. I'll figure it out and let you know later, but for right now, I'm just going to sew around and then I'm just going to sew this box and I'll come around and connect that line is what I'm going to do to make sure I get everything connected. But as I'm finishing up this wallet, I'll also finish up my facts about the circus. As we know, the circus Barnum and Bailey does not operate anymore at this time, but at the most popular times in our history with the circus, there was over 30 different traveling circuses going on at any point in the United States. So many people have fond memories of traveling with the circus, of watching the circus, of being a part of it. And so as we honor Nicole by sewing her wallet and showing this amazing pattern, we can also take time to just kind of remember some of our own childhood dreams and the things that mattered to us when we were young, and some of the experiences we had in life, and even some of the things that we wanted to do that we didn't quite meet or didn't quite get to do. We can still kind of think back and remember them fondly. So I do appreciate Nicole not only letting us sew her pattern today, but also allowing me to just get to know a little bit more about her and just a part of her history. It's always fun to get to know designers a little bit more, kind of know a little bit more about them. I think it's always fun to connect with someone, so while you're sewing their pattern, you can kind of think about those things and just enjoy it a little bit more. I'm going to just back stitch here, and then I'm going to come across and grab that line. I obviously read the pattern wrong. It's not going to have a big deal. It's just not the way it was supposed to be, so make sure you pay attention to that. I'm going to back stitch here and at the end again. Now what I'll do is after this step, I'm going to go off camera and I'm going to trim up my edges, make sure everything looks really good. And I'm also going to add gunmetal snaps, magnetic riveted snaps to the wallet. I'm going to clip my wallet. We want these card slots to be kind of matching, so I'm going to put a clip right there matching those up, and you can see the thickness of this. I did sew it on a domestic, but if I would have had like all vinyl or all cork, and this is no interfacing, I chose not to add any interfacing at all because I knew it'd be thick, but you can see how much thicker it'd be. Stitches look perfect, so they look great. I'll trim up all my threads off camera. I definitely would not have wanted to add any interfacing. I do not feel like it needs it all. So the flap just sits down. My placement on my tag is perfect too. Really like that. That's really cute. Very, very cute. So here's how everything's looking. I'm going to go off camera and add my snaps, trim everything up. You always got to kind of teach it how you want to lay. I'll put some clips down here too. Very thick. I definitely am glad I did not add any interfacing at all. It's good that I did use a jelly. Jelly's a little bit thinner, but that's a lot of layers for sure. So keep that in mind with the materials you choose. Okay, I'll go trim this up, add snaps, let it rest a little bit, and we'll see how it looks. My Juno clutch wallet is done. Off camera, I trimmed up everything. I actually even had to wipe off some chocolate. Evidently, when I was cutting this, I was eating cookies. It happens. So I added magnetic snap rivets. I did not do anything to my sides or edges. I even went around like thinking, should I bind them just to make them look prettier? And I thought, you know what? No. The entire feel of the wallet would have been different if I would have put binding on there. Not that you couldn't, just for this one I thought it wouldn't be the best. The label looks great. My zipper pocket looks great. Everything turned out perfectly. Very easy to follow. Whenever I open it up, I can see all my cash slots. This is going to be perfect for me. You can see it's plenty wide enough and it is deep enough to hold my cash in there. I'll be able to just grab out any denomination I want. Also would be good for coupons if we have anyone who still uses paper coupons. We do have the two pockets. If you remember, I did mine wrong here, so mine should have this same print right here. It's okay, it's not a big deal, but this will be a great place for your phone or for receipts or whatever you're using. Tag here looks good. So all my placement was really good. I'm proud of myself on that. These lines really help, I think, the fold. I like them, even though I did them wrong, they did still turn out perfect. So all in all, I'm extremely impressed with this raw edge wallet. I usually am not the best at getting a raw edge wallet to look like anything I would want to use on a regular basis, but I have to be honest and say I'm kind of in love with the way this one looks. That is so cute. My materials are from Brittany from the Emporium. My tags, of course, are from Heartwood and Hyde. I will leave all the information for Sonar in my description. I'll also leave Brittany's information in my description as well. And I hope today in your sewing room that you are able to take the time to think back and reflect on a childhood dream you had, something that mattered to you. Kind of even research it today and see what it looks like, and just remember those times in your life when those dreams really mattered and what your life looks like now, and if you need to make any adjustments and go in a different direction. I want to thank everyone for watching the tutorials. Thank you definitely to Nicole for letting us be a part of this, and thank you Brittany for having amazing materials. I hope everyone has a great day and continues watching the rest of the other marathons. Thank you so much.